Hey, yo, what's up? It's Smooth.
Vaughn.
This is Riggs.
And Slick Money.
And you are now listening to the
Switch Style Podcast.
Welcome to the Switch Style Podcast, where we encourage you to think beyond what you're hearing. I'm your host, Smooth, and I'm joined tonight by the tallest person I know. Riggs, what up, man?
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, man?
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, too.
Yeah, you have a good Christmas?
I really don't do the good Christmas thing, but, my time off was okay.
Okay, great. Nothing wrong with that. And audience, if you're wondering, it's just me and Riggs tonight.
Dos amigos.
Yeah, the two amigos. And Vaughn actually took the night off, so shout out to Vaughn and Santana.
My son is playing ball tonight.
Yeah.
A little tournament.
Young Michael Jordan.
We hope he's doing well.
Oh, yeah. Hope so. Yeah, he's pretty good. So, Santana, of course, we wish you well. And Vaughn, we'll see you next week. So, audience, glad to have you back. Again, this is the Switch Style Podcast, episode 40. The last episode of 2016.
Wow, man, this year has flown by.
It has, man. And audience, just to give you a quick timestamp, today is actually December 28th that we're recording the podcast. And in 3 more days, 2017 will be here. I'm excited. What about you?
Yeah, I'm excited for each new year, I guess, really. To be alive. That's cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because it's a lot of people that won't make it. And I didn't plan on mentioning it, but George Michael passed, what was it, Christmas Day or a day or two ago. So rest in peace to George Michael, the huge 80s pop star.
Yeah, boy, Everything She Wants.
Yeah.
Boy, that is one of my favorite songs. Just like, period. It's a tight song. It's got everything that you want in the 80s pop song.
Yeah, I agree. And from his beginnings with Wham, yeah, the guy was very successful. So we lost another great one. So rest in peace to George Michael. And we would like to send our condolences to his family. And not only him, but Carrie Fisher as well. Princess Leia from Star Wars. So again, audience, this is episode 40. And before we jump into anything, we just want to give you a quick update or a quick rundown. Just to let you know what we're going to be talking about. And it's going to be a quick show. Tonight, we're only going to give you a quick chart update. And we're actually reviewing Yes Loud from NxWorries. Well, by NxWorries. And this was actually a request by Miss Zoe Timms. Miss Zoe T from New Zealand. So, Zoe, you asked, and here we are. We're delivering. You wanted us to talk about NxWorries, Yes Loud, and here it is.
No worries. Oi.
So maybe we can get out to New Zealand one day. But, Riggs, if you don't have anything else, we'll go ahead and jump into it.
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Congratulations, Pentatonix. The vocal quintet has topped the Billboard 200 with their latest, Pentatonix Christmas, earning 206,000 units. 185,000 of those were traditional album sales. Initially, Pentatonix Christmas was released on October 21st and debuted at number 3 and has spent 9 weeks on the chart. So, congrats to Pentatonix.
Yeah. But here's the time for it to pick up.
Yeah. Christmas album, and it's amazing that they were on the chart for over 2 months, and they just hit number 1. So, congrats to Pentatonix. And audience, to note, this is also their second number 1 album. They hit number 1 with their self-titled album in 2015. And on the Hot 100, Riggs, got some good news for you. We finally got a new number 1.
Yes.
Yeah, after 6 consecutive weeks seeing Ray Shremmerd and Black Beatles at number 1, The Weeknd and Daft Punk actually knocked them off with Starboy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which was a surprise. It was actually on sale in the iTunes store for 69 cents. But it's actually been on the chart for 14 weeks, and it finally hit number 1. So congrats to The Weeknd and Daft Punk.
Yeah, that's surprising. If it did, if it didn't hit it earlier, I wouldn't expect it to come and hit now.
Yeah, I was shocked too, because they actually, Starboy spent 8 weeks at number 2, and Ray Shremmerd and the Black Beatles, they pretty much jumped the album. Well, not the album, but the single Starboy. And just to note, this is Weeknd's 3rd number 1, following Can't Feel My Face and The Hills. And, for Daft Punk, this is actually their first number 1. Their previous high was Get Lucky with Pharrell in 2013, which hit number 2.
Right, Pharrell and NxWorries was on there, right?
Yep, sure was.
Yeah, that was a hot track right there.
Yeah, it was the biggest of their career. So congrats to Daft Punk. But yeah, audience, that's actually it for On the Charts. But before we move on to the next thing, and I didn't even say it earlier, if you like what you hear, we would love to have you subscribe to the podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, and SoundCloud, all at Switch Style Podcast. And also check us out on Facebook,
Instagram,
and Twitter. So we'll actually jump into the album review. Like I said, audience, it's going to be a really quick show. And if you haven't heard any of our reviews before, we'd like to give you a quick bio on the artist just to give you an idea of who they are and to, most importantly, get you up to speed. So here we go. NxWorries is made up of the duo of singer, rapper Anderson .Paak and producer Knowledge. Knowledge, he discovered Anderson, who was known as Breezy Lovejoy at the time, while performing an acoustic version of an earlier song titled Play Your Part. Anderson, he became aware of Knowledge through another producer he was working with at the time, and after they connected in 2012, their collaboration led to 2015's Lincoln Suede EP. Personally, Anderson, he released his breakthrough album Malibu in January 2016. It's not his first album. He actually had a few mixtapes under as Breezy Lovejoy. That was his old name. And he released Venice a year or two earlier.
2014.
And just to note, congrats Anderson. He's also nominated for 2 Grammy Awards.
Oh, nice.
This year. Yep. Best New Artist and Best Urban Contemporary Album. So next year, I would love to see Anderson take one of those awards home, but he might be a long shot, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how well his music connects with like everybody, but his energy and his production is good, and just his whole style is tight. Yeah,
I agree. And just a quick background on Knowledge. Knowledge, he scored his biggest placement on Kendrick Lamar's 2015's Grammy-winning To Pimp a Butterfly. He produced the track Mama on that album. So that's a quick bio on both of them. So now that everybody's caught up to speed, let's go ahead and jump into it. So Riggs, when did you first experience NxWorries or Anderson .Paak or Knowledge? Either one of them.
I'll be honest with you. The first time I heard of Anderson .Paak was on the BET Awards. And from that point, like, his energy and his whole vibe, I liked it. So that's was really the first time I saw him and heard of him. But I like his whole persona. And this right here, a couple of weeks ago, first time I actually listened to it.
Well, the album came out in October, and I won't say I overlooked the album, but there was so much coming out at that time that you could say it did get overlooked, or we kind of bypassed it. And Zoe, I'm glad you did bring it to our attention, and I'll tell you why in a second. But for me, my first experience with Anderson was Compton. Yeah, he had a lot of guest features on Dr. Dre's Compton.
Right.
That was my first experience with him. And with Knowledge, To Pimp a Butterfly, the Mama track that had Layla Hathaway, and I just love Layla Hathaway. She did background vocals on that track, and that was my first experience with both of those guys. So, and they're both based in California, Los Angeles to be specific. But those are my experiences with them. And Riggs, let me ask you this: how do you feel about Anderson's place in R&B right now?
His place in R&B, I think his place in R&B is bigger than where he stands right now. I think what he does isn't so like new, because he's got a lot of old like funk soul to what he does, a lot of tongue-in-cheek levity, but he's all the way him.
Yeah, he is.
Most people who come out and they're a little bit different and they're all the way themselves, that's a recipe for success. So I see him doing bigger and better things, and I think he's going to take up a big space in R&B.
Yeah, I agree. And before, when you came in, I was telling you, we talked about The Weeknd a few weeks back.
Mm-hmm.
And I said Weeknd was the king of R&B, that he's at the top right now. And just listening to Anderson and considering everything he's done this year, like we said earlier, he put out Malibu. And, he did Compton with Dre, and this is pretty much his second album this year. The NxWorries album and Malibu. He's nominated for 2 Grammys, Best New Artist. So not just people within R&B are looking at him, but people on a national scale across genres, because that's a pretty big acknowledgement that, you know, somebody says, hey, this is probably a guy who might be a leading figure, not just in R&B, but in music the next few years. So I think that speaks volumes for him. But getting back to my point, I think Anderson might be or could be R&B's next great star. For me, he combines everything that I would like to hear in an R&B artist. He's lyrically, he's as ambitious or as raunchy as a Prince. Vocally, he definitely has a distinct voice. I won't say is completely unique, because we've heard similar vocal stylings or similar vocal tones.
Right.
In Life Jennings and probably some other people.
Yeah, which for some reason, not my dude, but.
Who, Life?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's a lot of people's dude. Yeah, because he put out an album and I don't even think people knew about it last year. So, but yeah, I think Anderson, if he's on his way to being that guy in R&B, I think. And there's BJ the Chicago Kid, he's out there, and there's a lot of more people out there. But I think Anderson is definitely on his way. But back to the album, Riggs, what stood out most to you about Yes Lord?
The soul about it, and I don't know how to say this to sound. I don't want to sound corny or whatever, but it's a lot of misogyny.
Yeah, I agree, definitely.
At first, it's kind of funny, whatever, but as it goes, it kind of it's fatiguing to some degree. Like, that I don't think there is enough subject matter.
I agree.
In the album. His melodies, his riffs, the way he comes through with what he does, real cool. I like it. And the other thing, I don't want to sound like it's all negatives, but the only thing, well, it's not a negative, because when you think songs are too short, that means you want more.
Exactly.
But a lot of the tracks, man, I think the average song is like 2 minutes and 15 seconds.
Yep.
If you average them out. So, once you get a groove into a song, boom, it's over.
So, yeah.
The skits are funny.
Yes, they are.
The skits are funny. I like the skits. I won't say they're like super, super original, but they're good.
Yeah.
And it isn't like, oh, I heard this on that album or whatever. So, yeah, that was real cool.
Yeah, I agree. And Riggs, I agree with just about everything you said. And it's funny because the songs are short, but the album itself clocks in at 19 tracks, a little bit under 50 minutes. And the tone throughout, not the tone, but we talked about it before, the tempo throughout the album pretty much remains the same. And I wrote it in my review. It's sort of anticlimactic. Like, it never builds up to a certain point. And for me, there's a lot of good tracks on this album. There's a lot to like, and we'll get into that in a second. But I don't think there is one clear standout, one track that's obviously better than everything else on the album.
Yes, I can see what you're saying. I think the songs that are more appealing are the songs where it isn't so much the track, but how Anderson .Paak actually connects to the track.
Yeah.
Which makes one kind of a little more likable than the other. Right.
And I agree with you about the misogyny. If a lot of women could listen to this and be completely turned off. And I guess it depends on the woman, but I could understand how if some women listen to this album and they said, I just can't do it, because I won't say it gets to a point where it's completely overwhelming. Not for me, but it can get downright offensive at times. And, that might turn some people off, but I agree with you. Anderson, the way he delivers it, like if he could substitute different words or different lyrics throughout.
Right.
Yeah, his lyric, not lyrically, but his delivery, his phrasing.
Right.
The melodies, like you said, they're simply amazing.
Right. And then on top of that, they call the album Yes Lord.
Yeah, Yes Lord.
Keep
right.
calling to the Lord, and then, this be over here, and that whole, F you, yes Lord.
Right. I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would love to know. I think it might be a phrase that Anderson says, because this is a guy who grew up in the church. He started playing drums in the church, and I think it's just it's something that he probably says from he probably has incorporated it into his daily sayings or whatever the case may be. But I'm like you, I'm interested to know why they called it Yes Lord. And it was a lot of it was probably Anderson's idea. And just doing some research on knowledge, he pretty much approaches, I won't say just life, but the music with a nonchalant attitude. This is a guy who just wants to pretty much sit at home and not sit at home, but go to the studio and make beats. He's not really interested in the fame or anything that comes with it. This is a guy that just loves music, and he'll sing you beats and do this and that, and he just wants to make music. So I think in terms of the concept, I think all the direction came from Anderson.
Probably.
Do you think the album could have benefited from more producers?
I think so. More producers, or maybe even more musically from Anderson, because his stuff is like we were talking earlier, seems to be like a little cut above.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
So yeah, I can see that. But I guess what they're doing just kind of fits into their concept of what they wanted to do together. Yeah,
you're absolutely right, and that's a good way to put it, Riggs. It depends on what they want to do. When they set out to do the album, they probably didn't have any ambitions beyond them just two friends getting together, two people who admire each other's work, and saying, hey, let's work, let's put an album out. And it could have been just that. But for me, throughout music history, it's hard for one producer to carry an entire album. And as good as a guy like, and I always bring up Quincy, he's my favorite ever. But as good as he is, Quincy had a stable of musicians that he could go to.
Stable of musicians, a stable of songwriters, a stable of artists that put input in, like artists that are musicians.
Yeah.
Like with the Brothers Johnson, he not only like their own music,
right?
They would have input into other people's music as well, play some bass on some of Mike's joints, and so yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And from what I read, this album was actually at least 3 years in the works, because Malibu and Compton, actually, they both came out while they were still working on this project. So I know they were working on each of their own separate projects, but they had time to do things. And it could be a money thing. It was released under the Stone's Throw label. It's a label based out in LA, and some of their bigger artists were Mayor Hawthorne, Aloe Black, the producer Madlib. They all released records under Stone's Throw label. So it could have been a financing issue. They might not have had the money to bring in more producers or musicians.
Yeah. But I mean, even if you like you say, you have one producer, you don't have to have one sound. One producer usually has a couple of different sounds, a couple of different tricks in his bag. So I mean, I think regardless if they use other producers, they could have used other styles.
You're right, and it's safe to say, and I don't want to call knowledge a one-trick pony just based off this album, but if you listen to this album, you would think that if you listen to Yes Law, you would think that knowledge could only do one thing and one thing only, because the album, at a certain point, once you get to the end of the album, it's more of an exhausting listen, because most of the tempos never change. The tempos probably hover within maybe 20 to 40 beats per minute. There's never really a considerable change in the tempo, and it's not from a listener's perspective, it's not a very exciting listen. Like it's almost like riding on a roller coaster. It's like riding in one of the little teacups, and then you can go get on the Batman or whichever the craziest ride is right now. But listening to this album is like riding on a teacup. And Slick and me and Slick were hanging out last night.
On the teacup?
No, not on the teacup, but we were riding and we were listening to the album. And I told Slick, I'm like, it doesn't sound great in the car at all. And I told you, Riggs, before the show, if you a pimp, this is great for you, because it moves at a certain pace. I don't know what pace all pimps move
but
at.
If it's a pimp, it's a little off too, because it stopped too much. You know what I'm saying? I want to glide. I don't want to keep stopping, baby.
Right. Yeah, it does. Stops a lot. I mean, they incorporate a lot of skits, which I I do like you said earlier, I like the skits, but it didn't sound great in the car. Not to me.
It sounded okay it sounded pretty good in my car. It wasn't like, like you said, it was nothing that was like, oh my God, this is, banging,
Yeah.
But it was cool. I don't want anybody to think I didn't like the album, because I actually did. But there's just certain things that could have been better. That's all.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we already talked about the skits, but Riggs, what are some of your favorite songs?
Best one, I like that a lot. I like HAN. That's a funny song.
Yeah.
It's an acronym.
HOANs.
Yeah. I like Suede. Another Time is cool. The FKKU thing was pretty funny.
Yeah, it was.
Like This Is Cool. And most of them have kind of a similar vibe. So, Side Piece is cool too. I like Side Piece.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I love Side Piece.
Side Piece is that joint right there. But like you say, on all those, the only difference really, the melodies are similar and this and that, but it's mostly what Anderson .Paak either gives to it or changes up with it, or
Right. For me.
What about you?
Oh, what about me? For me, I don't know if they left the out on purpose. I don't know if the name of the song is supposed to be Wings, but it's track 3, WNGS. What more can I say? If I'm a pimp, I really love Cutlass. Get Bigger / Do You Love. I love that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. I left that one out, but that is a good one.
Khadijah, I really like Khadijah. I like the idea of him finding Nirvana, him just escaping all the pain, the hurt, and all the worry, all the bad things in the world. I think that's something that we're all looking for at some point in life.
That's another one of the super short ones, though, right?
Yeah, I don't even have it pulled up here with me. Let me see. Khadijah only clocks in at 2 minutes and 2 seconds.
Yeah, so that's like the one thing. Certain songs, like you will vibe with it, but then it's like it's over. It's like a whole album full of the Rockwilder.
Right, I agree. Suede is another one, and Suede was a carryover from the EP. Side Piece and Get Bigger were probably my favorite 2 songs on the album. I thought Side Piece was probably the most delicate, probably the most honest moment on the album.
Yeah, I can see that.
And you mentioned misogyny, and audience, just to give you an idea of what he's talking about on Side Piece, it's obvious, but it's not what you think it is. On Side Piece, he's pretty much telling his main woman that he's gonna let go of the side piece. He's gonna come in and do what he's supposed to do.
Right, because he cares for her that much.
Right. I think for me, that's I don't have a side piece. I don't, I'm currently single, but if you're a good dude, I think that's the one that resonates with you the most. And to each his own. For everybody out there that got the side pieces, it is what it is. But I think it's like I said, it's the most delicate, the most honest, and I honestly think it's probably the best moment on the album. It's the one that closely aligns with the title. Right. Yes, Lord.
And what about is it Wings? The one where he's talking about why they're making it so hard.
Best one. No. Is it no? What more can I say?
Right. Yeah. It's kind of a similar type of song.
Yeah. Like he's like, man, as soon as I wake up in the morning, like, why all these women dressed like this? They just tempted me. They doing this. I can't even go outside without being tempted.
Mm-hmm.
And it tells a story because, like, on Wings, he opens up saying, hey, girl, we hadn't been out in a long time. Let's go out, have some drinks, have some fun. And on Best One, he's all in love. He's infatuated. He's like, yeah, you the best one I've ever had. And, the loving is so good. Whatever happens, I'm not leaving you. Then on What More Can I Say, he gets tempted. He starts to fall into temptation. Like, okay, man, all these women are everywhere. I can't take it. I can't take it. But yeah, those were all the songs that I like. And audience, I don't want you to be mistaken, because this, even though Riggs, we've pointed out a lot of things that we don't like about the album, there are a lot of great things. And I think the highlight, like Riggs said, is Anderson .Paak. This is just, I think it's an extension of Malibu. I don't think it's on the level of Malibu. But if you like Anderson .Paak, you'll definitely like this album.
Yeah, it's funky. A lot of it is catchy. Even though, the rhythms are the same through the album, they're still good. And
right.
And Knowledge, he actually is a master at looping these records.
Yes, he is.
He some of them you'll hear it and it'll sound almost as if that's their track. So don't be mistaken. He does that very well.
Yeah, he does. He does. And for me personally, I'm really excited to hear what Knowledge is going to do going forward. From the interviews that I read, he seems to be a recluse. And for a lot of producers, that most effective producers I've read that Dr. Dre is pretty quiet. He's a taskmaster in the studio, but I don't think Dr. Dre is the most outspoken guy, but a lot of the best producers, Timbaland, Kanye West, Pharrell, Swiss Beats, Quincy Jones, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of those guys are vocal in the studio and they know how to give you direction. I think most of the direction came from Anderson. This was pretty much Anderson's child. He just needed somebody to provide beats, and I'm not reducing knowledge to that. I'm not reducing knowledge to that, but what I'm saying is I just wish Knowledge had more input, because being a producer is not just making beats. Me and Riggs, we can sit down and make beats and send them to anybody. We can do that, but if only in R&B and hip hop are producers considered beat makers.
Right.
When you go to other genres,
it's putting a package together and having a whole direction and concept.
Exactly. Because producers have to be everything. They have to be coaches. They have to be motivators. They have to provide direction. Producers are A&Rs. They're engineers. They do everything. And right now, Knowledge, he just seems to play that beat maker role. He's reduced to a beat maker on this album. At least that's what it feels like to me. And as Knowledge goes on and as he gets better, I would like to see him be more of a producer. That's just my opinion.
No, I can respect that opinion.
Yeah. So, Riggs, would you like to hear another album from NxWorries?
I would, especially if they've listened to this podcast. I think they'll have something to come away with. And I'm pretty sure that everything we've said, has probably been said already. So, I think another album from them would be real good. I think it would definitely eclipse this one.
Yeah, I agree. I would love to hear another one, but it just depends on those two. Anderson, he's an artist in his own right, and he's taking off. If he can manage to win one of these Grammys, I think he's a long shot, because in that Best New Artist category, Chance the Rapper, Kelsey Ballerini, I forget the other two. It's three more. I have to look them up. But he's probably a long shot. Honestly, Best New Artist, it doesn't mean much, because Milli Vanilli won Best New Artist, and we saw what happened with that. So I'm excited, man. I would love to hear another NxWorries album if we get one. Not sure, but if they do, hopefully, I'm expecting bigger and better things from it.
And even though I just said that, mind you, now I don't think that's going to be the case with Anderson .Paak, whether he would win it or not. Yeah, I don't see him stopping or being stopped. So looking forward to see what happens. Yeah,
I agree. And like I said, I probably declared Weeknd the king of R&B too soon. But I'm be honest, Anderson is my favorite in R&B right now.
Yeah, I could dig that. What I would say, though, is Anderson wears more hats. Where the Weeknd is now, his music it does kind of push the envelope a bit.
Right.
His the production that he has, but vocally and so on, he is more quote unquote R&B, and Anderson .Paak is more music and soul and all over the place.
I agree. It's kind of like that scene in Dreamgirls where Jamie Foxx's character and the brother, they approached Effie, Jennifer Hudson's character, and they said that Dina is going to be the lead singer. Beyonce's character is going to be the lead singer. And Jennifer Hudson was like, hey, what's going on? But they were pretty much telling her that they needed a lighter sound to cross over to the pop charts, which Beyonce's character provided. And I think that's what it is with Weeknd. Vocally, Anderson, I won't say he couldn't be on pop radio, but I don't expect a lot of pop music fans to really, they might not relate or it might not connect with them, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. The only thing I can say is possibly with some of his raunchy subject matter, pop people kind of tend to, sometimes like that.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's one of those things. I mean, he can go either way. You can't really tell. But all thing you can tell is that he's talented and his music is good.
Yeah, you're right. To me, lyrically, he's like a combination of Prince and R. Kelly. He's like if Prince and R. Kelly had a music baby, he's not, I won't say he's completely as raunchy as, well, he might be up there.
Prince, R. Kelly, and Bilal.
And I like Anderson, man. I'm not putting him on the level of a Prince or an R. Kelly. But I think if he, over time, depending on what he does, he could possibly be there. But those guys, they've been around for so long, and their feet in the game are just so far deep.
Yeah, they're household names.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, that's a whole different animal.
Yeah, and that's a whole different conversation too. But Riggs, would you recommend this album to a friend?
I would. Now, it would depend on what friend it was. Just because the level of profanity and where he kind of explains things about women. So, yeah, certain people I wouldn't, because I don't want to get smacked in the face.
Yeah,
but other
you're
people,
right.
You like this.
And I agree with you. If you like Anderson .Paak, definitely listen to the album, because if you've listened to Anderson .Paak, you're familiar with the things that he says and how he chooses to convey his message. You're familiar with it. So if you like him, I'd say listen to it. For some reason, there's no parental advisory sticker on the cover. For some reason, it's not on there, but parents, if you want your kids, I would say listen to it before you let your kids listen to it.
Oh, for sure.
But I like it. I mean, it's a really good album. I won't say it's one of my favorite albums this year, but there is a lot to like. I think you can walk out of the 19 songs, you can probably walk away with 8 or 10 of them and say, hey, I really like those. And there's a lot of great songs you can add to a playlist or a collection. But if you're out there and get it, I say get it.
I say the same thing, with the same guidelines.
So look for there's no parental advisory sticker, but it needs one. But go get it. Go check out NxWorries. Anderson .Paak is a great talent who needs to be heard, and Knowledge as well. If you're listening right now, you probably like, damn, they hate Knowledge, or we're not too high on them. But I guess my only thing with Knowledge is he's been doing it since 2009, and my only concern with Knowledge is slow down, take your time, actually put some work into what you're producing, because having the numbers is great. You can produce, you can make all the tracks you want. Because Knowledge might have more beats out there than anybody in the world, but it's about quality. At the end of the day, it's about quality. Like, there's 19 tracks on this album, but you might only be able to take away 8 or 10 of them.
Yeah, I hear that. He doesn't want to be, Mouse Ingval. You know who Mouse Ingval is?
No, I don't.
He isn't currently, but was had the record for playing the guitar the fastest. But if you ask anybody who he is, they don't know. And the music that he plays, is it so great? No, but he's really fast.
You're right.
Put a lot of notes out.
You're right.
In a minute. But and that's not taking anything away from Knowledge, because like I said, he does, being a Tribe Called Quest fan, the way Ali Shaheed Muhammad will sample music is incredible to me. And if that's my example, and I say he does it very well, he's really talented at doing that, and then that's saying a lot. So I can't say that I've heard all the different types of tracks that he's created, but I do like the tracks that are on here, and just they need to change up a little bit, just give you a better rounded album. But I liked it, and I would recommend it. And
like you said, Riggs, earlier, everything that we're saying, it's all speculation. We don't know what they were going for on the album, or what album that they actually wanted to make. If this was what they wanted to make, they did a good job. But this is just from an outsider's perspective, and to me, I'm a glass half full type of guy. I think there could always be more. I'm always looking for ways for improvement.
I remember Switch Style audience, if any of us are saying anything about what we would like to hear more, not a negative thing, because
right.
You want to hear more of something that you like or see potential in.
Yeah.
If you don't like it or you don't see potential in it, I don't want to hear anything else.
Exactly. And Riggs made a good point. Like, if we're hard on somebody, chances are it's because we really like them, and like he said, we think they're capable of better. So congrats, Knowledge. Congrats, Anderson. I'm looking forward to the next one. Not sure when it'll come, but Riggs, we can actually shout some people out and go on home. Got any shout outs?
Shout out to Slick Money. Shout out to Vaughn and Young Santana out there making it happen. Putting cats on skates, putting buckets up, tossing up them dimes.
Yeah, you bad boy.
Definitely you. I said, yeah, my whole Switch Style Podcast crew, but you're the only crew today.
Yeah, just me. Just me and you.
Everybody listening, of course. Appreciate your support. Keep listening. We'll, keep trying to do more for you, get better for you. And that's about it.
Cool. Well, for me, thank you, everybody who's listening. If you made it this far, thank you. We appreciate you listening to however far you've gotten into it. If you didn't finish, but hopefully you got to this point. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you for bringing this album to our attention. We knew about it, but to be honest, we sort of overlooked it, me personally. But thank you for bringing it to our attention. It's like we said, if you like Anderson, definitely get the album. But be warned, there should be a parental advisory label on the album. So if you're listening to it with your kids, just the warning. It's very raunchy, or the lyrics are very definitely dirty, to say the least. But thank you, Anderson. Thank you, Knowledge. Thank you, Riggs. Thank you, Vaughn. Thank you guys for supporting the podcast this entire year. 40 episodes in. And we've only missed 1 week. So for that, I appreciate you guys. And this is the last episode of the year. We're going into 2017. So audience, we hope you all have a great new year. We wish you much success on everything in your new year. And thank you again. And shout out Slick Money. Go ahead, Riggs.
Hey, Jay, so what are you listening to this week?
What am I listening to? Well, pretty much it's been Yes Lord. I'm kind of anxious to get to Childish Gambino, which we'll talk about next week. Other than that, it's pretty much been Yes Lord. I did go back and check out a lot of Malibu. I've been listening to Malibu all year. Audience, if you listen to the podcast, I've been screaming Malibu all year. So check out Malibu. But Riggs, one more thing. Webster Lewis. Everybody go check out Webster Lewis. He was this keyboardist, this pianist. He started out he was a big session musician back in the 70s and 80s. And I think he was actually Herbie Hancock's band leader at one point, or he played with Herbie Hancock. But Knowledge actually sampled one of his tracks on the album. The name of the track is The Love You Give to Me by Webster Lewis from his 1980 8 for the 80s album. So go check that out. The song is about 6 to 7 minutes long. So go check that out. Riggs, you have anything?
Yeah. This week I was listening to Robert Glasper, Covered.
Great album, boy. Woo!
That is a really good album.
Great album.
It's definitely got those deep jazz roots, but it's got the funk beats to it, and you can talk about an album that moves well. that album right there, oh boy! And that, in case you forgot, on Covered, where it's pretty much most of it is Robert, but I think the other two musicians, they do play on it. It just shows how amazing. The bass player and the drummer definitely have everybody's got a nice solo on it.
Title is what it says. In case you forgot how good I am, let me just show you real fast. And that's what Robert does on that track. But Riggs, I agree with you. Covered is amazing. If you hadn't heard Robert Glasper, if you hadn't heard that, Covered, go check it out.
Right. And the track that made me really want to listen to that album, I love the track. It's called Good Morning. It may not be the best track on the album, but it's just super sweet. And you hear it. It's definitely a morning song.
Yeah, he covered John Legend's Good Morning.
He covers a lot of stuff. Some of the stuff does sound very much like the original, but then other stuff he kind of deconstructed and put it back in his way. But man, that's a good album. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, Robert is probably one of my favorite things for favorite people in music right now, regardless of genre. So he's doing it.
He's also really good in concert.
And he's been to Atlanta in the last 3 years, probably 4 or 5 times. And I still hadn't seen him, but I'll get to see him one day.
Yeah, I saw him about 3 years ago here.
So everybody check out Covered. Check out Robert Glasper's album, Covered. Check out Webster Lewis's The Love You Give to Me from his 1980 album 8 for the 80s. And listen to Yes Loud by Anderson .Paak and Knowledge, also known as No Worries. So,
right. And everybody out there, if you're not aware already, the No is spelled with an X, just like Knowledge's name is spelled with an X. NxWorries, or NX Ledge. So yeah, just so you don't when you put it in, you'll probably find it anyway, but just to let you know so you're not thrown off.
Yeah, there you go. But audience, we'll see you next week next year on episode 41. And for Briggs, again, my name is Smooth. And also, before we go, follow us on iTunes, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can find us everywhere. If you want to hear us talk about anything, you can email us at switchstylepodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up wherever, because that's what Zoe did, and we gave Zoe what she wanted.
Got to give the people what they want.
Yeah. So, yeah, Briggs, you got anything else?
That's it.
All right. We'll see you next week on episode 41. Peace.